You Only Live Twice is the 1967 Bond film, the first Bond film directed by Lewis Gilbert, starring Sean Connery. It is the end of Sean Connery's 007 month on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Say it with me. I am joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Looking forward to getting into this after last week's, let's say, mishap when it comes to
Yes.
quality in Bond films. Yeah, I think I have a feeling we're going to like this one a little bit more than last week's for sure.
Yes, You Only Live Twice. It came after Thunderball. And that is all I have to say about Thunderball. It is the first Bond film to feature Blofeld's face, and he is played by Donald Pleasence, who, for all my horror movie fans out there, absolutely know from everything. He's in everything. But yeah, he is very much at the end of the film, so we will talk about him much later. But this is the one where Bond goes to Japan. He's in Tokyo. We got a bunch of people with a bunch of cool names, such as Tiger Tanaka, who, whatever last week's episode, this film has some competent and memorable characters, at least. And Bond, he kind of goes through it in this film, considering he dies in the first scene of the movie.
Yeah, it's similar to last week where Bond essentially pulls a Jacques Bouvard from Thunderball, where he fakes his own death in order to kind of get in a leg up on the opposition. So yeah, it's a ruse designed by MI6 in order for Bond to go undetected into Japan and obviously try and find out more about all the shenanigans going on there in regards to like Spectre and all this shady stuff going on. Yeah, so does it last long though? Who knows?
Yeah, we also have space politics.
Yeah.
Because this film opens with a pretty great opening, to be honest. A US spaceship is orbiting the Earth when this giant bullet-looking thing swallows it whole, and there's this one astronaut who's like attached to the rocket, and it just gets snipped, and he floats off into space and dies. The US spacecraft has been taken by this unidentified flying object, and obviously, considering it's the late 60s, they go straight to accusing the Russians. And the UK are caught up in the middle of this. So they send their best man on the job to figure out what is going on. And that is James Bond. And yes, if you thought that we were going to make a huge triumphant comeback when it comes to, I don't know, gender roles in this film, considering how poorly things went for us in Thunderball, it's not much better.
No.
Bond is certainly still as sleazy as he was in Thunderball. You could argue that some of the female characters in this film, only Aki, to be honest, are given even somewhat of a chance to appear somewhat competent. It's bizarre how far we have fallen in such a short space of time when it comes to how the women are treated in these films. But in case you were wondering what I am talking about, Bond's first line in this film is, why do Chinese girls taste different to all the other girls?
Yeah,
That's what we're in for, lads.
Yeah.
That's what we're in for. Bond has been flanderized by this point. All he does is sex and spy. That's all he does these days. He sexes and he spies. But yeah, it turns out post credits, oh yeah, he's not dead. They didn't actually kill him. Good for you, Bond. And now the film starts properly. Bond has to go to Tokyo because that is where they seem to think that this whole space conflict is actually emanating from. And as a result, we meet a bunch of characters. First of all, we go to a sumo event, which, may I add, is actually shot really well. I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
quite good, yeah.
it kind of made me lean forward. I was like, oh, we're taking things seriously for a minute, because it's shot quite fun. This is where we meet Aki. She takes Bond to Henderson, who is his first person of his first point of contact, besides Aki, who he doesn't really know if she's on his side or not yet. And Henderson gets axed off pretty soon after fucking up Bond's martini. Not because of that. I just thought it was funny that he messed it up. He gives it to him and he says, "Stirred, not shaken, right?" And you can just see the disgust on Sean Connery's face. There's a few moments in this film, particularly, and we'll talk about it later, but in Little Nelly, which is a amazing thing that exists. We'll talk about that later. Some of the looks on Sean Connery's face as he's doing the green screen scenes in Little Nelly are amazing. You can tell this is a man who will not be here in the next movie.
I was going to say, like, for the first act, for a good section of like the early part of the film, Connery just looks very disinterested, to be honest with you.
He doesn't care.
He
does not care.
He's properly phoning in at this point. He's like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm sure he was delighted about the paycheck, but when it came to actually showing up and doing the work, he does, as the film goes on and as we get to the final act and as things start to ramp up, like, he does look more interested. But like for these scenes where it's kind of like a two-hander, or there's only 2 or 3 characters in the scene and it's the dialogue heavy scene, he just doesn't seem to care really. I can't really, especially after the shambles that was Thunderball, like, I can't really blame him too much either.
Well, I think we are in the minority on dunking on Thunderball, especially considering the 60s. Weirdly well-received film.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Henderson's death, by the way, is quite interesting. Like, it's quite exciting and well shot. It's like, it does come kind of out of nowhere, but then it's like where he did have his back to a door, and it's one of those Japanese doors which are very, like, very, very, very thin. So, like, it does make sense.
Paper thin, you could say.
Paper thin, yeah. So it's like, it does make sense that an assassin would try his luck and just so happen to get the exact spot in his back that you know.
I wonder, I could be totally wrong, but I wonder if the light is on inside, can you see their shadows?
Yeah,
maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's true.
Potentially.
Plus, if you're an assassin, it's probably the first time we've done that kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Especially if you are a Japanese assassin in Japan, you definitely have home field advantage there. But this isn't the only time that he gets brought there, but Bond manages to sneak into a guy called Mr. Osato's building, who is someone who he heavily implies is involved in this unidentified spacecraft that is just after stealing a US spacecraft. So he goes to investigate a couple of times, and again, it's pretty gadget heavy, but they're kind of fun in this one. Basically, the building is just tripped out to the nines. Like, he goes into a room and there's a security camera with a gun in it, and like there's a guy manning the tiny little gun, which is pretty fun. There's like an X-ray machine that Bond can't see, so that Osato can see that he has guns on him. Everyone thinks Bond is dead at this point. No one knows what he looks like, so these people are welcoming into their bad guy base, thinking he is a fellow bad guy businessman. And everyone's riding around in helicopters too. But pretty gadget heavy. And eventually Osato kind of realizes he doesn't realize he's Bond, but he realizes this guy isn't who he says he is, so he orders him to be killed, which leads to a bunch of fun, big action set pieces. We get a fun chase sequence in a cool little white convertible, and then we get a really fun fight sequence at the docks. There's one scene that I just laughed at. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but I just thought it was really funny. There's this aerial shot of Bond on a roof, and it just holds on it for so long because he just keeps running around the roof, punching people in the face, and just holds on the same shot. It's like he just keeps going. He just doesn't stop, just running in circles, punching people over and over again. It's very funny. He also like does 2 swanton bombs, not 1 but 2. And he helps Aki escape with vital information to the plot, I'm sure. But we get a bunch of fun action sequences as well. There's a chase sequence in this film which very entertainingly ends with Aki phoning in a helicopter with a giant magnet on it, which picks up the bad guy car. There's a few good quips in this film because over the phone, Tiger Tanaka, may I just add, class, says, how about that for a Japanese efficiency? And then we cut to the giant magnet dropping the car, and Bond says, like a drop in the ocean. So great. Some of them are not so good, though. There's one point where Bond punches the wannabe Oddjob, who is a useless henchman, into a pool of man-eating turtles. Again, I love how specific that is. And he says, "Bon appetit." You're not in France, mate. Doesn't work. Like, there's a few quips that just don't work for me here. But the drop in the ocean one was pretty good. And speaking of Tiger Tanaka, may I just add, that guy has a lair on an underground train. He's a good guy, by the way. But that's fun. I like that. I like that he just has his base is just a constantly moving base underground so that people can't get him at any point. Like, he's never stationary. It's clever. I like it a lot. Tiger Tanaka, good lad.
Yeah, I like how Tiger essentially fills the quarrel role in this. They do a good job of, in these Connery Bonds, of like having like a local kind of ally that Bond can affiliate himself with. That will kind of, it's a good reason to explain why Bond is up on the kind of cultural customs and why he's able to have kind of a scope of the area and why he's able to like know so much about, like, if there's like an alley or if there's like an area that you can go to that it's for a particular reason, like you can get information from that kind of area. Yeah, that's where, because it wouldn't really make sense otherwise. How would he have that kind of information? So it does make sense from the point of view of like allying himself with a local. At least that's one way to kind of explain your plot contrivances, shall we say. But yeah, the whole Little Nelly stuff where Bond requests, he's like, call up and say I want Little Nelly to come here, and I think it's Tiger.
For such, like, Little Nelly must be used in such specific circumstances.
Yeah, and Tiger Tanaka's like, oh, I don't like the sound of this. He goes, oh, and bring her dad as well. Bring Little Nelly's dad as well. So you're like, oh, who's Little Nelly? What is Little Nelly? Turns out it's Q. Q is back. Yeah, and
yes,
with his big bag of gadgets, his big inventions. Yeah, it's a lot of fun in the role. Desmond Llewellyn does a lot with a kind of very limited screen time in these Connery Bonds for sure.
Yeah, he's very entertaining because he's just so sick of Bond shit. He's just so sick of him. He's so done with him. But he brings Little Nelly, which is like basically a small, teeny tiny helicopter, which is assembled and has missiles, flamethrowers, machine guns,
rocket launchers,
smoke bombs, landmines.
Yeah.
Like it's just got everything that Bond could want for surveying the area. Oh wait, bunch of bad guys show up in helicopters. It's a good thing he's got Little Nelly, because oh my god, does he use all of those things. It's again a very entertaining action sequence. Like, the thing with Thunderball, all that film has is the action sequence at the end. We had the Little Nelly sequence in this as well as everything else. Like, this is definitely I don't know if I'd go as far as to call it like a big return to form, but it's certainly a good Bond film. I wouldn't skip it. There's a lot of fun to be had in this film, and the Little Nelly scene is definitely a lot of fun. That being said, after the Little Nelly scene, we go on this weird little diversion till the ending where Bond has to become Japanese.
Yeah, it's quite weird. Essentially, the custom is that Bond has to like blend in with the locals, so he looks really weird with the kind of Japanese hair.
It's weird.
It's so weird. But then there's also, we talk about like this scene where where maybe it doesn't shine Bond or doesn't paint Bond in the right kind of brush. So he's standing on kind of this hilltop and he's seeing these local women, and like the disgust he shows some of them is like, oh, she couldn't possibly be my wife. That's the kind of vibe.
So they make a comment basically for whatever reason, because it's to do with the mission, of course.
Yeah.
Bond has to do 3 things. He has to become a ninja. He has to marry a Japanese woman. And the third thing, which is so vital to the plot, is he has to, very vital to the plot. Oh, yes. Become Japanese. Because they do a whole sequence where he gets prosthetics put on his face to make him look more Japanese. And he gets this hilarious wig. It is
it's so funny.
So bad. It is diabolical. I'm so glad that he takes it off for the final act. It's awful. He looks so stupid. But yeah, the joke that they have is, you can't marry Aki. You have to marry a Japanese woman with the face of a pig. And then they do the whole marriage sequence, essential to the plot, where Tiger Tanaka which is such a pro wrestler name,
Yes.
and James Bond are on top of the hill waiting, and these women come up, and as you said, the stain on his face as he thinks that each one of these women is going to be his wife.
And then he finally gets set up with a woman called Kissy Suzuki. Again,
Kissy Suzuki.
again, a pretty
What
funny
white
name.
man came up with that?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's clearly has feelings for Aki at this point, or at least like Aki is closer to like the person he wants to kind of spend some time with at least.
Yeah. I sure hope she doesn't die or anything.
Yeah. So when they're scoping out kind of looks like a volcano almost. It's like a kind of like wherever.
It's an island off Japan.
Yeah, looks.
Paint the picture in your own head.
Yeah, it gave me Close Encounters of the Third Kind vibe. I have to say, like as they're kind of looking at as Bond is kind of scoping out and it's showing you actually what's inside and the whole Spectre operation. That's inside. Definitely gave me some Close Encounters vibes. So I wonder if this was a bit of a reference point for Spielberg developing that film. But yeah, they break into the facility and he frees the Russian and American. It's funny because there's a scene where he's like, they're talking about, oh yeah, we're astronauts. No, we actually call them cosmonauts in our country. So the Americans and the Russians, obviously, like people say that Rocky IV solves the Cold War. Who knows? Maybe you only live twice then. But yeah, he frees those, and obviously the whole plan is that they have like this kind of wave of backup as well. All these ninjas that are gonna come and as like a second wave kind of. But we finally get to see the man behind the operation, the brains behind the operation, the guy we've been kind of skirting around for several films now and only have ever seen off screen. And to be fair, they did a very good job of building him up as this mysterious figure who you really wanted to first of all see what he looked like, and second of all kind of see if his bark was as big as his bite. And yeah, we finally get to see Donald Pleasence as Blofeld. So yeah, introduced himself as Ernst Stavro Blofeld, and his whole plan is he wants to incite a nuclear war between America and Russia, and then Spectre will become the new global power at the end of this. Which, to be fair, is much closer to Goldfinger's master plan than it was to Thunderbolts, for sure.
Yeah. The scene where he leans into the camera and we see his face the first time is very impactful.
The one thing I didn't like about...
And that's kind of it.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't like about Blofeld, well, actually, just like you said, it's maybe more bark than bite as it happens, but has that whole thing, like, similar to Thunderball, where Eye Patch guy has an eye patch. Blofeld has a big scar running down his face, and it's like this whole thing, like, so many Bond villains in particular have facial disfigurements. It's like, man, come on, you can be more creative than that, surely. It's like, having a facial disfigurement doesn't make you a villain, and like, come on.
Yeah, in Bond's eyes it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big fight at the end, the third act set piece is definitely enjoyable, as we get like all the team of ninjas. Tiger Tanaka has like 100 ninjas helping Bond take over this facility, and they all they rope down into the facility because, as you said, it's like a volcano, and some of the shots are like really impressive. The stunt work's really impressive. Like, it looks big, it looks grand, and meanwhile Bond is shooting people so he can get to Blofeld, because there's this whole other third spaceship in space, which Blofeld's big bullet looking thing is trying to take, and Blofeld, for no reason at all, when Bond is in the room, announces that there's a key that exists to blow up his ship.
You just start seeing the whole plan. It's like,
wonder how this film ends, lads.
Yeah, it's no reason for him to... I guess the thinking is he wants to, like, gold Bond and gloat because he thinks he has the upper hand. It's like, right, I might as well tell you the whole plan so you can see how much of a genius I am, since you're going to be dead in 5 minutes anyway.
Every Bond film leading up to this insinuates that Blofeld is more intelligent than all the villains who do that. So it's weird that he does that. Yeah, like, exactly. I did enjoy this movie. It's fun. It definitely delivers on the action, which is probably what I enjoyed the most about it, is the action. There's a lot of fun action. Blofeld, I love Donald Pleasence, and it's nothing to do with performance, but
Yeah,
It just doesn't fit. It's just not Blofeld.
yeah, I agree.
When he leans into the camera and we see his face for the first time, that's Blofeld. That's a moment of movie magic right there. And then everything else is just
It's just movie villain 101. Like
copy and paste.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of bog standard. There's nothing memorable, nothing to kind of make him stand out. It's just all very formulaic, and it's very like paint by numbers kind of. This is what movie villains look like, and this is how they speak. So that's how we're gonna have them speak. Do something a bit different.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, it didn't massively affect my enjoyment of the film. I still like enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was a letdown for me with Blofeld, but
Yeah, I agree.
that being said, Donald Pleasence is a class actor anyway. But yeah, Bond, as I said already, punches the nondescript number 2 bad guy into the turtles. He chases down Blofeld, but Blofeld escapes. Bad guy escapes for once. There you go, different ending for once. Just kidding. The film still somehow ends with Bond and a Bond girl on a floaty. How does it always happen?
It's so funny.
Although this time there is a joke about it, because they are in this big floating device in the sea, and Bond's like, "Oh, this is the woman who he married," and he's like, "Oh, time for our honeymoon or whatever," and she's like, "Oh, what if they find you?" And he's like, "They're never going to find us in the middle of the ocean," and then the submarine appears, and their floating raft is stuck on top of the submarine, and it turns out that M and Moneypenny are in it, because that's the submarine that he was in at the beginning of the film after he faked his death.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty. It's finally a payoff to that gag.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, gas that somehow that still happens. Yeah. You only live twice. Also, Blofeld gets to say the name of the movie. Good for him.
Yeah, that's true.
Good for him. Yeah. Pointed at the screen. Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, when he did that. But yeah, Shane, You Only Live Twice. The 5th and final Sean Connery Bond film that we are going to cover this month on the podcast. Is it any use? And further question, would you want to see us cover more Bond films on the podcast? That is aimed at, obviously, the audience, but also you, Shane.
Yeah, I would definitely be open to covering more Bond. Like, apart from these Connery Bonds, I've spoken to that. I've only ever seen the Daniel Craig ones, so definitely would like to see more of Roger Moore's. I guess that's the only, because of the time frame that we're kind of trying to cover in the podcast, that's the only eligible ones that we could probably cover, because obviously Timothy Dalton is, I think, 80s and Pierce Brosnan is 90s and stuff. So
yeah. You're forgetting the guy.
Yeah, George Lazenby. Maybe we could do George Lazenby just for kind of the novelty value. The fact there's only one. But yeah, maybe eventually we could do that. But yeah, as far as the film goes, I definitely enjoyed it. It's not on the level of Dr. No, From Russia with Love, or Goldfinger, in my opinion. Definitely prefer those three. But it's a big step up from Thunderball, which isn't difficult. That's not good, in my opinion. I think your opinion as well. But yeah, it's definitely a step up. Blofeld, it's not really that great of a payoff from at least 3 movies where they set him up really well, and like kind of as this kind of ultimate kind of final boss that Bond is trying to take down. Obviously they leave him on the table so they can come back to him and stuff. But yeah, I don't think it's as strong of a payoff from that point of view I was hoping for. But at least this, like, visually is trying to do different things. It doesn't just put him in a tropical island somewhere. It doesn't just kind of. It doesn't have a million underwater sequences the way Thunderball does. Like, it's the whole kind of base, the Spectre base at the end, and the volcano or whatever that kind of thing is visually quite different than what they had done previously. So yeah, I gave it 3 out of 5. It's definitely worth a watch if you're into the Bond films, even if it's not quite on the level of the first 3 out, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I also gave it 3 out of 5. It's fun. It almost over-delivers on the action. Like, considering everything else that happens in the film, the action in this is actually very good. It's very enjoyable, very fun. Every action set piece kind of works, to be honest. Like, at no point does the action ever feel as repetitive as Thunderball, or like it's rinsing and repeating other stuff. Like, it is all good, action-wise. That being said, the character of Bond has definitely been muddied a bit in the last 2 movies.
Yeah, for sure.
He's definitely more of a sexual deviant than he was in the first 3. He's not as charming or as cool or as charismatic as he was in the first three. It was announced whilst they were making this that Connery wouldn't be returning as Bond, which is why at the end of the film it says, this is the end of You Only Live Twice, but Bond will return in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That comes up at the end of the film. Everyone knew that this was Connery's last Bond. For now. But, yeah, then we end up getting George Lazenby in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And then Connery would return in Diamonds Are Forever, which is awful. Awful movie. Awful. And, yeah. Bond then goes through a weird point. But it's funny because the director of this film, Lewis Gilbert, has directed three Bond films. Three Bond films that are so different in quality. Moonraker is definitely a Bond film for people who like naff Bond, who like stupid Bond. It's a Roger Moore film. It's clearly trying so hard to leech off the success of Star Wars. I did not enjoy Moonraker, but it does have Jaws, who is just below Odd Job for greatest henchman in Bond canon. Jaws is so amazing. Then you have You Only Live Twice, which is this film, which is good fun, over delivers in some aspects, and does sleazy Bond in other aspects. And then you've The Spy Who Loved Me, which is, for me, definitely Roger Moore's best Bond film, and has possibly the greatest shot in all of James Bond, where Bond has that crazy action ski set piece which ends in him going off the cliff with the parachute with the Union Jack. It's like one of the most iconic images in action cinema. Again, Jaws, submarine car, the soundtrack. It's a lot of fun. The Spy Who Loved Me is a fantastic Bond film. So yeah, just funny to point out that Lewis Gilbert's got three totally different Bond films. That being said, this one is a lot of fun, and I would assume we have a similar ranking of the five films, because Thunderball's definitely last.
Yeah,
this is
sure.
definitely
Fourth.
This is definitely fourth. Goldfinger's definitely first, and then it's a toss up between the other two.
I'd have. Good question. I'd have Doctor No just above From Russia with Love personally. Don't know about you.
Yeah, I've no idea which one I prefer. I think they're both great.
Yeah, they're both very good.
I don't know if I could pick between the two of them because their pros are like each other's cons at points. It's weird.
It's true. The only reason I'd say Doctor No would be, I think, the fact that it was such a great kind of force, like it really from straight off the bat, it was such a great blueprint of what Bond should be.
Yeah.
And it's obviously very difficult to do that. And plus, like, it didn't already have the. I mean, in fairness, From Russia with Love wasn't a tropical kind of island, I guess, but it did have quarrels, a lot of fun. Doctor No's fine as a villain. Like, I think From Russia with Love doesn't really have a villain in the sense of like a master kind of strategist. It's like it has Red, or the guy posing as Red, played by Robert Shaw, and has a couple of like other kind of lowish level goons. So from that point of view, I guess Doctor No is more of a strategist. Even though he's still kind of a mid-level ranking Spectre member from that point of view, but I just think maybe just shades of Doctor No, just for the fact that it's, again, it could have been anything. Like, it could have been a disaster, it could have been great. Thankfully, it was. Apart from the final act, it was really, really good. So yeah.
And yeah, that concludes the Sean Connery 007 Bond month on the podcast. Next month, we've already alluded to it in last week's episode. I've also already trialed doing a teaser trailer for it on my TikTok, which I feel like there is little to no overlap here, so I don't think any of you have seen it yet. Next month we are doing Heists of the Century. Thank you for that one, Michael Cole. We are doing heist films from the 20th century. 4 films, which are Asphalt Jungle, which is somehow Marilyn Monroe's first appearance on the podcast. Wild.
Crazy.
Ocean's 11, which is Frank Sinatra's first appearance on the podcast. Bonnie and Clyde with Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, who are like so iconic for the late 60s.
Yeah.
If they aren't people who you think you're familiar with, you'll realize that they were in a lot more stuff. Obviously, we have an older audience actually than we probably realize.
Yeah,
we actually,
probably, yeah.
I would say most people watching this actually do know exactly who they are. Never mind.
But the La La Land mix-up from the Oscars a few years ago, they were the two people who actually, to no fault of their own, they were in the centre of that because they were the ones presenting that Best Picture award, which the La La Land Moonlight kind of whole fiasco there. So not on them at all, but yeah, that's those two. In case anyone watching doesn't actually know who they are, that's who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I do realize though, like, in comparison to my own YouTube channel back when I used to make videos on it, the age demographics are so different.
Yeah.
So different. We don't have a bunch of 18-year-olds watching us. We most certainly don't. And fourth and finally, you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. Michael Caine is on the podcast. It's The Italian Job. Yes, they are the 4 heist films we are covering. Is there greater heist films than those? Possibly.
Yeah.
They are the 4 that we chose. It's a fun thing for me because I haven't seen 3 of them, which very rarely happens in a month in the podcast. The only one I've seen is The Italian Job, so I'm looking forward to tucking in to the other 3. And yeah, we both love a heist film, and Shane, as he also said last week, is working on a short video on 12 heist films everyone should see. I have no idea if that'll be out like the week after this comes out or if it'll be during Heist Month, but it's coming soon.
Hopefully, yeah, the first week of Heist Month at the latest. If not, I'll try and definitely get it out like as soon as possible, whether it's the end of August or very early September for sure.
Yeah, perfect. And if you want to see things like these teaser trailers or whatever going forward, it'll be on our Instagram anyway, but going forward, follow us on Instagram. Instagram is where you get all the information on the Golden Era Film Podcast. Twitter is a non-factor, really. Yeah. We get no traction from there whatsoever. Even though we have followers, it makes no sense. TikTok, there is seemingly no overlap, and anything podcast adjacent, I just put on my own TikTok page. You can follow it if you want. There's very little overlap between this channel and my TikTok, so feel free. But if you want to stay up to date with everything that happens on the podcast, do follow us on Instagram, because you would have seen earlier in the month that the unthinkable happened. Yes, at the beginning of this month, in case you didn't realize, after over a year, after hounding them with emails, Apple Podcasts have accepted us. So we have now happily been welcomed with open arms to Apple Podcasts this last month, which, just looking at the analytics for the first couple episodes, has been a success. Already equaling Spotify numbers for the last month, and we've only been on it for 2 weeks. So I wonder, by the time this episode comes out, will Apple Podcasts be the number one source of listeners? Because we have way more listeners than we used to, which is funny. I did not realize that a lot of people actually listen to the podcast and don't just watch us on YouTube, which is very fun, very exciting. But yeah, shout out to everyone who is listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, if there's 2 or 3 of you there, Amazon Music, if you're listening to your Alexa, listening to the Golden Era Film Podcast. I don't know if you're cleaning your kitchen or something. Shout out to all of you who are listening to the Golden Era Film Podcast, because I feel like those supporters don't get shouted out enough.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, looking forward to Heist Month on the podcast, and yeah, check out that short video. And yeah, as far as obviously Apple Podcasts, yeah, hopefully that's going to be a big kind of push as well. Going to give us an extra push, because really, like Harry said, listeners, not just viewers on the podcast, over the last couple of months have been gone way up actually, which is obviously great to see, because it makes me both think that we're not just like screaming into a void or talking into a void or something. For sure. So
Yeah, especially because like there's a weird period on the podcast on the YouTube channel
Yeah.
where views are bizarre, but it's nice to see that like with listeners that there's just a gradual incline every month. It's just like gradually improving. It's like a metric that makes sense. Whereas YouTube,
Volatile.
so hard to predict.
Yeah.
So hard to predict. But in the meantime, we got a bunch of heist movies to watch now. I know Shane's already seen a bunch of them for that video, but yeah, I'm gonna go watch some Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Shane, I'm sure, is gonna watch some more classic films as well as cinema releases. God, I need to go to the cinema more often. And in the meantime, I've been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Mahoney.
And that was the final episode of Bond Month, 007 Month, Sean Connery Bond Month on the Golden Era Film Podcast. See you all next week for the Asphalt Jungle. Again, we're doing them in release order. So it was the order that I said. It'll be Asphalt Jungle, Ocean's 11, Bonnie and Clyde, and The Italian Job. So we'll see you all next week for Asphalt Jungle, for Heists of the Century. Goodbye.